Welcome to the launch of a new focus for Bentley Motors. For more than a century, Bentley has stood for an unrivaled blend of luxury and performance. As the company goes through the biggest transformation in its 103-year history to become the world's leading sustainable mobility company, there's now a third string to that bow, the concept of automotive wellness. I'm Maria Mulder, Head of Colour and Trim at Bentley. Over the next few minutes, and with the help of some colleagues, I'm going to introduce you to the new Bentley Azure range, a new specification of Bentley available across the model range that is centred on our new mantra of well-being behind the wheel. We've already unveiled the pinnacle car in the Azure range, the new Bentayga extended wheelbase. This fifth model line for Bentley is our new flagship, a stretched SUV with new levels of onboard comfort and wellness, yet retaining the performance and driving dynamics of the Bentayga. More on that a little later. Before that, let's focus more on our concept of well-being behind the wheel. For the development of Azure, we commissioned a suite of research that defined the factors that affect our wellness when we're on the road, as a driver or a passenger. To talk us through this research, I'm delighted to be joined by our lead neuroscientist, Catherine Templer-Lewis. Could you tell us a little bit about your work?
So I work in neuroaesthetics, which is the neuroscience of the aesthetic experience. And by that I mean how everything around us, from what we sort of touch to what we can hear and see, impacts our brain and our body. And so ultimately, our well-being. And we need it more than ever right now, because we know that stress is at an all-time high. About 43% of us feel daily stress, and that impacts both our mental and physical health. And I was very lucky, I had the pleasure of driving one of the Bentleys, the Bentayga S. And like every Bentley, the minute you step into it, you have this incredible sense of not just sort of comfort and relaxation, but sort of energy as well. And that's a feeling that lasts the whole day.
We really consider all of the different surfaces, what material will be on there, so that both the passenger and the driver have that sensory experience.
All these elements are so important, and it's such a wonderful thing to see them come to life in the car.
I've brought some samples here today to just really evidence this concept. I've got this beautiful crown cut open pore veneer. What you can see is the true detail in its character and the real sense of it being an authentic material. Another sample I have here is the 100% wool. It's the Wilton woven, and this has got such a depth to it and such a depth of quality that really it feels like it comes from your own home.
You do in the car get this feeling of being completely cocooned. It's so sort of safe and secure. That's amazing.
Absolutely. And with the range of colours that we have, we can then create and really personalise for each customer that sense of light and dark. So that level of personalisation with piping, with stitching, hand cross stitching as well. And even if a customer wanted to have something that little bit more special, we even offer things like open pore stone veneers. So this is a natural stone, and again you get this, when you touch it, you get the sense of its texture and its authenticity. These are the things that we love to create for the customer.
When we study brains and what happens in the brain, how you know that the reaction to this is really visceral. We know that combination of pleasing sort of colours and shapes and forms, they do all sorts of things like increase dopamine in the brain, which makes you feel sort of more at ease and more motivated. It affects the limbic part of the brain, which is the seat of emotion. Even things like these sort of details, this beautiful diamond sort of repeating symmetrical pattern here, we know that when our eyes scan patterns like that, we produce alpha waves, which is this brainwave associated with sort of relaxation, creativity, flow states. Even things like the touch, we're very visually dominated, but touch is so important. We know that when we feel these sort of beautiful, soft materials, we feel very comforted. And at the same time, these sort of hard materials like this gives this wonderful sense of sort of grounding and strength. So every aspect inside the car is just laddering up to that incredible sort of feeling of well-being. Maria, thank you. It's been such a pleasure to explore some of the incredible creative and visual aspects. Thank you. So now we're going to go and meet Andy Jackson, who's the acoustics engineer at Bentley. So Andy, you're acoustics engineer at Bentley, but what does that actually mean?
It's a really cool title and it's a really cool job. The work we do is fascinating and sounds, affects us in so many ways that most people aren't even aware of. So as an acoustic engineer, I aim to control the sound and vibration levels inside the vehicle's cabin. So historically, this is all about noise reduction. A quieter cabin makes a journey more pleasant and is generally less tiring for the occupants. But now we also work on the character of the sound because how a sound sounds, its properties, is just as important as the level. So essentially, the first step in defining the sound character of a vehicle is to understand people's expectations and perception of sound. So essentially we're embedding a Bentley sound character into its DNA, every component of the car. So an interesting part of sound character is this idea of balance and harmony, and that's kind of multi-layered. So there's balance between the sounds, so when they're mixed together it still sounds great. There's balance between the senses, so cohesion between what you see, what you hear and what you feel, and cohesion between the sound and the product derivative or type and Bentley's values.
It's so fascinating to hear all this because Maria and I were talking about exactly that, the car as a multi-sensory environment. And of course, the sound you add is just as important as the sound you take away. So how do you reduce all that negative outdoor noise inside the car cabin?
Well, the larger, more spacious cabin gave us some interesting challenges. Large volumes are more sensitive to low frequency sound. And while some low frequency is great, it really gives a feeling of potency and power, too much can be oppressive and make that space feel claustrophobic. So we reworked the exhaust. The distinctive Bentley exhaust note is still there, it's just slightly muted so we don't disturb the occupants, especially those in the rear. Active engine mounts are on the vehicle, which remove powertrain vibration, making the cabin more comfortable. We also worked on the rear seat comfort. So we've reduced road vibrations felt in the rear seat by 25%. And this is a great example of how understanding how we all perceive vibration directly affects our product development. In this case, we helped influence the seat cushion foam. Exterior noise penetration was minimised through an optimisation programme that we conducted at an aeroacoustic wind tunnel, where we focused on the body sealing systems, the acoustic laminate glazing and the rear MVH fleece pack.
It's amazing how the science is so sort of embedded in the design itself. It's really wonderful, and you do notice it. I was overwhelmed by this sense of sort of calm when you step into the cabin. This sort of pervasive feeling that was really amazing, and it's so necessary right now. We live in these very modern, hectic lives, and especially if you're, for example, in traffic all day long. We've seen from research that just being in traffic noise of about 70 decibels and above, it can actually impact your mental health. So it's so wonderful to see the thought and the science that's gone into the design of this. Not just the sounds that are sort of taken away, but also, of course, the sounds that you can hear as well. Now, we know from research that listening to music can also increase things like creativity, flow states, can calm your nervous system, and that's something as well that you've considered, isn't it?
It is, Catherine, yes. So, I mean, first of all, we hear that a lot when people get into our vehicles. So they get this comment on how quiet it is. You get a real sense that you're cocooned. It's a safe space away from the outside world. And of course, that nice, calm space that's quiet is a perfect place to listen to audio. Our name for Bentley in-car audio systems have been widely acclaimed since their introduction in 2008. And this is a legacy that's set to continue with Azure. We have a 1920 watt amplifier that drives 20 loudspeakers, all optimised for Azure, and controlled by a unique Bentley digital signal processor, or DSP. And this DSP optimises the sound based on your location in the vehicle and the content you're listening to. It also adapts real time to changes in the car, making subtle changes to the sound, so you always have that perfect listening experience. And for the first time with Azure, we have our first fixed surround sound algorithm, so you get a truly immersive audio experience in the cabin.
It really is that perfect immersive environment. It's been such a pleasure talking to you about all the different sonic features, so thank you very much. And now we're going to head outside to talk to Steve James about the interiors.
Hi Catherine,
Steve, hello, it's lovely to see you and lovely to be introduced to the new flagship, the pinnacle of the Azure range, the Bentley EWB Azure.
Our big challenge here was to develop the most comfort-focused driver and passenger experience we have.
Could you tell us about some of the features?
On this Azure derivative, we have the Bentley Dynamic Ride, which has been further enhanced and tuned to be the optimum performance for comfort in the vehicle. We also have in this edition, with a touring specification, rear-wheel steering, which really helps with the dynamic control of the car, giving you that feeling of safety and security whilst you're driving, even in the most dynamic conditions. We've also introduced some wonderful features on the interior of the car. Our mood lighting with the enhanced diamond illumination package is really an experience that has to be seen. As you know from driving a Bentley, we really put emphasis on focusing where on the interior cabin we can affect the well-being of the customer. On the Azure derivative, those well-being experiences are heightened to an even more extreme level.
They really are, and that's what I just so loved about the experience of being inside. It's that detail, and the temperature control in it is wonderful because people don't realise how much energy it takes to control your own temperature. So actually, if you have a sort of wonderful climate within and a controlled temperature, you really find it reduces fatigue, it reduces irritability, it improves your driving, but it also improves your productivity across the whole day. Now Steve's going to take us through the airline seat specification in a little more detail.
We have an all-encompassing approach to seat comfort, and while we can make our seat designs as comfortable as possible, when you remain seated for long periods, there will always be periods of discomfort, including thermal discomfort, which can increase over time. We wanted to target some innovation around longer-term customer journeys. The airline seat specification has been designed with a complex interlayer to work in harmony with the Bentley Dynamic Ride. This is to isolate you from any vibrations you may feel. The seat profiles can be adjusted to accommodate different shapes and profiles. The leg rest feature can be adjusted to find your optimum postural position. We wanted to develop an anti-fatigue system that would target and keep away the feeling of long-term discomfort. Our postural adjustment system works through a series of pneumatic bladders that adjust the pressure zones in contact with the seat. These micro adjustments are controlled by a complex algorithm that we developed with the support of a chiropractor who specialises in the area of seat discomfort. These micro adjustments are designed to subtly twist your body, increasing the blood flow, particularly around your lower back and lower limbs. This will stop fatigue from setting in and keep you more alert and awake. The Auto Climate Seat System is a sensor set that we've developed inside the seat that are embedded. It measures both your temperature and humidity levels. By monitoring your temperature and humidity levels over time, we can sample the data every 25 milliseconds, and we use this information with the use of a software algorithm to turn on just the right amount of heating or ventilation to maintain an optimal comfort position. In our controlled drive cycles, we have measured that the system running in auto mode is 40% more efficient than when operated in manual modes.
When ordering a Bentley, customers will now be able to choose what's most important to them, a focus on driving performance or onboard wellness. Every Bentley will do both, but the balance between the two will be the customer's choice. Azure will be available across the entire model range. We'll be offering two different axes of specification, driving performance on one and wellness on the other, with the incredible products from Bentley Mulliner crowning both. More on that very soon. Until then, thank you very much for joining us.